This brief video points out two reasons why you should never loan people money. This includes your family. First of all, I want you to understand that I'm not advocating not helping someone who is truly in need of help. But we must realize that we have to learn how to discern the difference when someone needs help and someone can help themselves and they just simply won't. Now, if someone is genuinely homeless, and when I say genuinely homeless, I mean if they're in a situation that they have little to no control over and they're homeless and you want to expend your resources to assist them, yes, do so. I would do the same. But if that individual has the means to provide for themselves and they are fully grown adults and they won't, you may want to reconsider assisting that person. I know there are a lot of us out here that are very compassionate, very empathetic to individuals that are in need, that are in despair. But let's not let our compassion and empathy cause us to be naive. So, the two reasons why you don't want to loan people money is number one, they have no intentions of paying it back. They believe that you are going to forget that they owe you the money, or that you are so kind hearted, so sympathetic, and even empathetic towards them and people like them who offer you a story that they're in dire straits. They think that you're just going to write it off. Or they think that they can hide from you for a period of time and you will forget it. And they may come around after several months, maybe even a year, hoping that you will have forgotten. But that's not the case with some of us. So you don't loan money to people because they have no intentions of paying it back. If that is the case, if you have an unction that when you loan money to someone that they're not going to pay it back, to include family again, but you still want to give them money, just prepare yourself mentally first that you're not going to get it back, or that there's a strong possibility that you're not going to get it back, and prepare yourself financially. Only give them what you can afford to lose. You see, if you give someone a modest to a very small pittance of what they're asking for, it doesn't have as great of an impact on you if you are a working class individual. It doesn't have as much of an impact on you as does you giving them a substantial amount of money, deceiving yourself into believing that they're going to pay you back just simply because they told you a story about something that they have experienced, something that they're going through. They're going to lose their home, they're going to be set out, they're going to be put in the dark, and the utilities are going to be turned off for failure to pay the bill, and so forth. beware. That's the first reason you don't loan money. But I left a gray area in there. If you want to continue on down that road and hand someone money anyway, don't give them a lot. Give them a little bit. But in a sense, I want to add that this does show how gullible you are and how unwise you are, because that person has to learn. That's the first individual that you don't learn, that you don't give money to or loan money to. All right. And the second individual is the individual that does never, ever sit down and count up the cost. And what I mean by that is this: they never plan. They have no financial literacy skills whatsoever. Even though to you and I, it seems pretty much a no brainer, second nature, to pay bills and to pay those bills on time. There are people, it's unfortunate, but there are people more so than you even can believe that have no financial literacy. They go to a job. Many of these people make a fairly decent wage. Some even make above that fair and decent wage. Some make an extraordinary amount of money as a blue collar worker, but they are broke about a week before the next paycheck. You know why? They they have never disciplined themselves to manage their money, to take out what the bills are that are due or coming due, and to put something away for a rainy day or for their future, and to maybe invest some money. They have never thought about that. They assume that they're going to have that job to go to every day, and a couple of days off of work, and starting the cycle all over again. They assume until they get laid off, they get fired, they become injured, or COVID-19, all of the above possible things that could happen where you could be incapacitated and not able to work and bring income into your home for you and your family. How foolish is that? Financial literacy is not something that you should learn in a book. If you're past the age of 30, financial literacy is something that you should learn just simply from life, from living. It is. I don't need anyone to tell me that my rent is due on the first of the month at my home or my business. I don't need anyone to tell me when my utilities are due. I know when they're due. I don't need a note to come in the mail to remind me that a bill is due. Outside of me finding out how much is due, the actual amount, but I don't need a reminder to pay my phone bill or my cable. Although we always get them on our phones, our cell phones, you get a friendly reminder or a message or a note to make you aware that your bill is due in a week, a few days, or tomorrow. Why? Why do grown people need these reminders if they are responsible? Now, I understand, I comprehend that from time to time, because of all of the things that we have to deal with from day to day, juggling all of our obligations and family and things of this sort, that we can miss a beat and forget something for that moment. Then find out a day later, a week later, that, oh shucks, I forgot to pay that bill. And here you are getting a message that something is about to be turned off or taken away, even, just depending on what it is. This happens with us who are responsible rarely, but for the most part, As long as we are alert here, we remember and we know when our bills are due. So that second individual who has no financial literacy, you don't want to you don't want to loan money to that individual because they mismanage money. Now, the first person that I pointed out was someone who has no intentions of paying you back, period. The other person, the second person, they have income on a regular basis. They're not necessarily down on their luck, like perhaps the first individual is. I use that term loosely, luck. I don't really believe in luck. But anyway, the second individual, again, is gainfully employed. They have money on a regular basis. They just don't manage their money properly. And that could be the case of the first individual too. It doesn't matter. But the second individual definitely does have money. And they might make as much as you or even more than you. And for them to ask you for money when they have money all of the time, and that they're not putting things in perspective, they're not prioritizing their money, or they're hanging out on the weekend, every weekend that comes up, they're looking for the weekend to come so that they can go party and hang out in clubs and buy liquor and whatever. It doesn't matter. But they continue to blow their income. And they come to you to borrow money from you. Now, those very habits, if you know this individual pretty well, to include a family member again, if those are their habits, what makes you think that you're not going to fall into the same category with them? As I say, what makes you think that person or individual number two is going to pay you back when you particularly know what their spending habits or their financial history is as it relates to being responsible with money? So if you are indeed aware of this, don't loan them money. Not number two, because those individuals are not financially situated in the head. They are irresponsible, irrational. They don't sit down and think about what's ahead of them as it relates to their future and that of their families if they have one, and it's really living a reckless life. Uh, we must realize that life is supposed to have some value to it, not what we perceive as value, not what we conjure up in our minds and imaginations as value. Life comes with it the potential to have a happy or relatively happy life, but it requires some effort from us. It just doesn't fall on you. So you have to have a sense of self-worth, and it comes from within. No one can give this to you. You have to be disciplined. No one can give you discipline. Either you want to be disciplined and you want to do better than you are presently in the future, or you don't. You have to make that decision on your own. And it is unfair and unfortunate that there are some people who will become a burden to other people who do have the discipline to take care of their business, their finances, their family, and so forth. It's not their fault that you are where you are. You have to make a choice. You cannot straddle the fence. Either you're on one side of the fence or you are on the other side. But you can't be in the middle. You know, it's time to grow up and not be little boys and girls anymore when you're an adult. When you're of the age of maturity, chronologically, you need to behave as though and govern yourselves as though you are grown, you are mature, and you are an adult. A lot of people want to wear that moniker and say that I am an adult, but they don't do adult things. They don't do what adults are supposed to do from a maturity standpoint. They're just simply hiding behind the idea that they are an adult. And when you correct people like that, the narcissism comes out. The narcissistic behavior comes out. Oh, you can't tell me anything. I'm grown. But it's funny, Mr. and Miss Grown person, that you're about to get an eviction notice for not paying your bills on time, but you've always had money. You just misappropriate the funds. Your children are always going without. Life is short, and I mean that earnestly, because sometimes we deal with individuals, and sometimes it may even be us, but we have to learn to take responsibilities as adults in this world, in our society, and try to be an example and set an example for everyone else. It's not our duty to hammer people over the head with our ideologies and what we think right and wrong is, but there are some things that are obvious. There are some things that are natural. There are some things that nature has already told us that are rules of life, that are fundamental to life, that are truths that many people don't want to follow. And anytime you present the truth to people or certain individuals, they want to get into themselves and get ugly and what have you. And sometimes the truth is appropriate. Sometimes it's not appropriate to tell people certain things because of possible repercussions or retaliation even. You just have to govern yourself accordingly, based on the environment that you're in, the people that you're dealing with, and the area that you're in, and so forth. Because some people don't take the truth very well at all, and some people don't take you correcting them very well at all. Even with that said, please understand this. Just to sum it all up, stop loaning people money if you can't afford to loan them money, and it's going to cause you any mental discomfort or stress if you do so and you don't get your money back. And it's really, at the end of the day, it should never be about the money. It should be about the principle. You loan somebody some money and they don't give it back to you, or they're hiding from you. Did you actually do your research on an individual? Research can just simply be internal. How well you know that individual, especially if it's a family member. Do they have a problem paying back? Do they have a problem being responsible? How do they treat their own family matters? Now, if the answer to that is that they do take care of their business and that they generally do pay on time, maybe you want to take a chance. I hate to use that expression, to chance, with a family member. Maybe you just want to go ahead and do it once or twice, maybe. But it should never, ever, ever be a habit. It should never be perpetual, because what you're doing is encouraging that individual to not do for self. This was a lot for me to say, but it's a lot to absorb as well. Take care.